should I put on my headphones?
I think the volume is pretty clear, not an issue. So hello everyone. We are live on YouTube right now. So I'm Neeta Aneja and I'm the founder of Trends Literature Series. In the Women's Day week, I really could not have asked to conversate with a more prolific and one of the most progressive female authors in India, Meghna Pant. So it's such a pleasure to have Meghna today with us. She's an award-winning and best-selling author of around 9 books. She's a journalist, columnist, TEDx speaker, hardcore feminist, and she's really, really welcome on our landmark 85th author interaction. Welcome, Meghna.
Thanks so much for having me, Neeta. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you for being here with us today. I know you are really having a very, very busy day today with back-to-back sessions.
Yeah.
And it'll be really heartening to discuss your book, Boys Don't Cry, which I must say has really, really created a lot of ripples all across. A bestseller on its 3rd day, and I think on the 2nd day you clinched that movie deal, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And so with this real page turner, engaging and a very, very intense book, which in fact I read on the way to my 25th anniversary celebrations in my flight.
Congratulations.
It took me back to back 4 hours to read the book. So how do you feel with its huge success? I mean, everybody has been talking about this book.
Feeling great. I'm so grateful for all the love I've got, honestly. I know it's a bit of an intense topic and, it's difficult to touch that raw nerve in everybody, but it's cut across genders. Men and women of all age groups have messaged me and said they love the book. And of course, the response it's got from production houses also has been quite phenomenal. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it, so I'm quite pleased with the response. And I'm so glad I think the fact that it's made the issue accessible, that it's not so intimidating, right? I think I always feel like with feminism, I'm a sort of hardcore feminist, but I always feel like it's all about intersectionality and accessibility. And I think that I achieve hopefully through my writing, or try to. So I think issues such as this, because I started the book with a divorce party and, kind of gave a lot of hope to the book is a message of hope for any victim of abuse, because there's so much redemption, there's so much revenge. And I think the underlying theme is that don't, like Shobha Day said, don't mess with women. Yeah. But there's so much more. So I think that's that authenticity, that sort of redemption has really echoed through many people. And I'm so glad and grateful for it.
Absolutely. A huge dialogue is being created on this book. Your book is definitely very, very courageous, as we all know, very compelling, gripping, everything else. But how did the process of writing this book happen? Because I'm sure since it was almost a real story, especially on your lifeline, I mean, I'm sure it would have been so difficult to put it down on paper, remember whatever happened. How was it with you? I know you've discussed this so many times, but just for the readers of my club.
Of course. No, happy to talk about it. But, I suffered from abuse. And I, a lot of people don't understand that abuse is not just physical, it's also financial, it's emotional. And that's what I've captured in this book, having your credit card cut off, being undermined. And, the person you see today was sort of how I was in my mid-20s when I entered an abusive marriage. I was very confident, very outgoing. And that person with his family stripped away all my self-confidence. They wore me down, they ganged up against me and took away any shred of dignity, any shred of strength I had within me, despite, being a strong person and despite having lived around the world. And it's not like I was, some babe out of the woods. I'd lived around the world, I'd worked around the world, and had access, had privilege. And despite that, I let myself become a victim of abuse. And till today, I don't understand that in the name of love, I think we women put ourselves through anything, right? And us time when we were growing up, these girls were told to tolerate, ki adjust kar lo for everything. Like if you walked on the road and you were molested, it was your fault. If somebody spoke badly to you, it was your fault. Anything you did was your fault. So I think those were the themes that kind of made me tolerate somebody abusing me for 5 years. But the process of healing took me 3-4 more years. And then I began writing the book, I think it took me years to be able to sit down. Like I started in 2014, but I'd get overwhelmed and too emotional. So I think only once I married a wonderful man and I had my first baby, I think that healing process was complete, and then I could actually sit down and really work on the book. But it's been literally like a 15-year process of actually going through it and then healing and then the closure. And I keep telling people this, Neeta, that if the abuser had said sorry even once to me, none of this would have come about. That's all we sometimes need. Not that it throws them into any relief, but it throws us into relief. And I think that's sometimes all we need.
Very, very painful to hear, and definitely very painful to read what you've been through. But how was it different from writing your other books? I'm sure the most challenging and the most difficult for you.
Absolutely. And I was, pregnant with my second daughter at that time. And my husband was like, first of all, why are you Googling how to murder your husband and get away with it? But more than that, he's like, why do you want to open up all this, when you're pregnant? But for me, I said, Abhi nahi to kabhi nahi, because the book had been so long, a work in progress. And I said, if I don't do it now, it'll never come about. So I know I finished it literally like a month after my second child was born, by February 2020, and I sent it to my agent Puja Gupta, and then Penguin came on board. Uh, but it also took us like 2 years to bring out the book, because it was we were all going through so much during the pandemic already emotionally. So to bring out such an intense read at that time may not have been the best decision. So Penguin bought out my comedy book. It's a terrible, horrible, very bad, good news. I don't know how many of you read it, but I think it was like very timely for that. It came out last year. And then, of course, then Boys Don't Cry has been out for a month and a half, and even the reviews I'm reading are phenomenal. The response has been amazing. So, but quite a journey.
I'm sure, quite a journey. As you always say, that with the 200 million abused women in India, I know your books like these bring out a narrative, and I'm sure will help a lot of people. But how far do you think we can reach when we see light for everyone? I mean, it's a huge number. When we talk about the abused women, we talk about it happening in every other household, perhaps every third household at least. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you feel about it? I mean, it's kind of a pandemic.
Yeah. It's been a shadow pandemic also, right? Domestic abuse. And yes. The number of people. So the first article I wrote was Femina in 2015, which was the first time I publicly expressed what I'd gone through. And it's like the floodgates of some hell had kind of opened up, because I got calls from an actress, I won't name her, and she said that her actor husband had thrown her out of a moving car. I got messages from like thousands of women almost around India. One of them, who I remember so starkly, her name was the same as mine. She said she used to be a dancer and her boyfriend broke her spine. So, there's the problem with abuse, Neeta, it's such a gray area for people, because I'm still getting messages and having conversations with people who say, Meghna, we've been married for 15 years. My husband hit me once when he was very, very drunk and we had an argument. So she's like, does that count as abuse? And in that case, should I end the marriage of 15 years based on that one slap? And that was, I think, also the theme of Thappad, that, does a slap also amount to domestic violence? At the same time, people are like, my wife has hit me or slapped me once in anger, or the girlfriend, or whatever it is. Women are also doing it to men. So it's such a gray area. And I think none of us know what is morally the right thing to do. Of course, on paper, we know that even a slap constitutes abuse, but it's much more complicated than that, right? So for me also, I've always been a very gray person. I'm not a very black and white person. I always give benefit of doubt to people. First, that's just my nature. I've grown up like that, trying to be kind to people and understanding people. But there's a limit to being kind, and there's a limit to understanding, and there's also a limit to love. So a lot of women I know stay in abusive relationships because they think the person will change, because abusers are very intelligent. They're very smart. They know exactly how to toy with your emotions. So if they hit you on a particular day, the next 1 week, they'll be just, like angels sent down on heaven. They'll ply you with love. So I think those are the things that a lot of women then get into, because sorry, my voice is echoing. But there's a limit to being kind, and there's a limit to understanding, and there's also a limit to love. So a lot of women I know stay in abusive relationships. Yeah, thank you. So I think I think I'm gone mute. Yeah, I think I'm mute now. Sorry. So I think that is something that as a woman, you have to understand that if a guy, and this took me a very long time to understand myself, that if a guy, like I got hit 2 weeks before my wedding, and I still ended up getting married to the guy because I didn't want to burden my parents. That's another thing we do as women, right? We will take on all the pain into unto us so that we don't inflict that same pain onto our loved ones, including our parents, our siblings, our best friends, our lovers. But again, why are we the repositories of shame and guilt and all sorts of pain just because our gender is, being a female? So I think those are the things I had to work on myself. So people are like, why didn't you get out on day one? But it's
Mm.
not easy. They teach people how to, we keep hearing in cinema or seeing, reading literature, how people fall in love, but nobody ever talks about how to fall out of love, how to end a marriage or a relationship with dignity or with some shred of hope still left inside you. So this conversation I'm trying to take forward with this book, that how you can fall out of love also, while keeping that sense of self still intact. So I think that's the larger concept. I wish we were taught all these lessons, in our schools and colleges, but unfortunately, only life teaches us all these lessons. So hopefully, this book will again take that conversation forward.
I have some friends, and I had invited them for this conversation, and some of them said, we'll not be able to even hear about it. So see the kind of pain. And even I remember
Yeah.
the movie Thappad. Some
Yes.
people just didn't want to watch it
Yes. Yes.
because they felt that they perhaps have gone through so much themselves
Yes.
that it kind of relives. And it hats off to you for bringing out your story out
Thank
in the front. And I'm sure it will enable a lot of people to do the same and to talk about their story, which has been maybe under wraps. It definitely will help a lot of other people in this. So, I mean, coming back to your book, I know the kind of message that you want to say, but maybe you could tell, I have read the book, but maybe you could like to tell more to the
Yeah.
readers here and people on the YouTube and who are going to watch this video a little later. So, what special message you have for women through this book? You've already discussed that. Some more things that you would like to talk about, and
Yeah.
also for the people, for the women who've not read the book, and why should they be reading this book?
Neeta, you brought up a very interesting point earlier that, it will hopefully encourage women to speak up and leave their abusers. But the one thing I want to just say is that you don't have to publicly speak up. So a lot of people, I was so hard on myself because this novel is so interesting because at some point I'm being such a coward, right? I'm not standing up for myself, and the reader is getting annoyed. They're like, why is she not leaving this man? Because it's this, but I
Yes.
purposely put that because that was, first of all, the truth. That's exactly what had happened, but also because that repetition is required so you understand how an abuser works and also how a victim works. Because again, it's not, you can't be a perfect victim. There's no like prototype for being a victim. There's no, even in cases of violence, like sexual violence is the same thing. The perfect victim, right? Like if you wore a short skirt, you ask for it. If you stand up for yourself in abuse, that means you ask for it. And ek haath se, tali nahi bajti. And all of those tropes were thrown
Right.
at me as well. And I didn't even know what abuse meant because back in 2007, we weren't having these conversations. Now I'm so glad that first of all, people are speaking up. They're talking about mental health issues. They're talking about abuse. They're talking about all kinds of issues now. And it's so important that we're having these conversations. Because sometimes at that time, you're either a normal person or you're pagal. So we didn't even understand what a bipolar person would, how they would act. We weren't able to identify these things. So I think that is a conversation I want to bring to the forefront, that identify if you have mental health issues or you know someone who does, don't allow them to get married, or don't get married, or don't get into a relationship, because a relationship should have the best version of yourself, not the worst, right? Women are not rehabilitation centers for men, right? Or vice versa. Also, by the way, I've also had men message me that they have been, one guy said that his girlfriend hit him across the face with a hot kettle. So it's not that, being a man or being privileged or being rich or living in Malabar Hill or being educated. I know women who are the top lawyers in this country who are being abused by their husbands, but they're not leaving. And again, I won't take names obviously, but I know that. I've heard their stories, and imagine lawyers are not able to leave their abusers. Actresses are not able to do it. So it nothing is going to save you from that. The only person who can save you is yourself. But my main message is that we've become now, unfortunately, also the type of people now, because of the access to social media, that we mistake noise for strength, and silence for weakness. And that's something that we need to stop doing, because the strongest women I've seen, like my Nani ji, for example, she didn't even know what the word feminism meant. But she became a widow at the age of 35, and she educated five of her kids, four of whom were daughters, sent them to the best schools in Shimla, and literally cut open her stomach to in order to feed her kids. She barely even had money. But for me, she's the biggest feminist I know, and but she didn't go about like dharna kiya, ya, going on social media and ranting, because some of the loudest feminists I've seen in real life are the worst, the most chauvinistic. So it's they'll never enable other women, or talk about their talent or lift them up. So in real life, so I think that is one thing we need to stop. So if you are a victim of abuse, it doesn't mean you have to go publicly if you don't want to, unless you're comfortable. But it does mean that you stand up for yourself quietly, get out of that cycle of violence, remove your children if you have them, and go to a safe space and allow yourself time to heal. And if that healing, whatever the process that comes to you, you be unapologetic about it, because you apologize for long enough, right? Just for your mere existence. So, remove yourself from the side of violence and heal. And whatever your process is, accept it, embrace it, and enjoy it. And let yourself just be.
Now, after hearing this, I want to ask you a little difficult question. What was the most difficult part in your book which you wrote? Most difficult for you to write down? I know you've been brave all this while. It would have taken its toll, but which was the most difficult part?
I think that scene where I tried to not really kill myself, but I tried to harm myself.
Oh,
That
was
got
very
back.
good.
That was
My
that
God.
was very. It made me so angry. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
it till today that still makes me so angry, because allowing myself to become that type of person, the toll it takes on you. I think that kind of summed up the entire. And for especially someone like me, I've always been a very positive, happy person. So to allow somebody to come into my life and take me from that happy, positive
Space.
person
Yeah.
into this state where I didn't want to live anymore, that really made me very angry to read that. And I'm so glad I didn't do anything drastic. But that was a scene I found extremely, and it really angered me. And I think it's angered anyone who's read it as well.
Yes, it was. It was
Thank you, Meghna.
very, very, very shocking. In fact, I remember some time back, I'd also seen your TEDx talk.
Yeah.
Way back in 2015.
Yes, yes, yes.
And you were looking so frail on the stage. It was moving me, no, and I thought that yes, maybe there the seed of this book would have been born.
Yeah.
You spoke, you were looking so frail and so tiny, I would say, on the stage and talking about this. And more power to you, as people have been commenting. More hats
Thank
off to
you.
you for coming out with your story. I
Thank
would
you,
say.
Neeta. So sweet of you. Thank you.
In the reference to the book, Boys Don't Cry, there were a couple of readers and a couple of people who came back to me and said, who've not read the book, that why the title Boys Don't Cry by Meghna Pant.
So a lot of people have said, by the way, a lot of guys have complained that boys do cry, and of course they cry. I've been raised by,
especially male members.
Yeah, of course.
That,
by the way, I have very positive role models in my life. My father is a great human being. He's one of the nicest people I know. My brother, the stand-up comedian Saurabh Pant,
yes,
is literally one of the best human beings I have ever met. And my husband is a great, great person. They're all very kind, gentle, sweet souls, And I'll have a lot of male friends and all of that. So I've been brought up thinking of men and women as equals. It's not like I had a terrible, except for this one person. The rest of
yes.
my interaction with men has always been very positive.
Yes.
So I just, that's one thing I just want people to know, that it's not about women versus men. And I want to say that feminism is also not about women versus men. It's about women and men versus a system of patriarchy, because I think patriarchy is unjust to both. Because we've always spoken so much about women, but patriarchy also puts men into little boxes, right? You are not allowed to cry. आप dancer नहीं बन सकते, आप pink नहीं पहन सकते. And by the way, Neeta, these conversations are happening even today. I have two daughters, and I hear, like, I go to a birthday party, and the return gifts, there'll be different return gifts, like a Barbie for girls and like a He-Man for a boy. And I'm like, but why are you putting little children into these gender boxes from such a small age? Let them choose what they want. What if a boy wants to play with a Barbie, or like wear the color pink? Boys are not allowed to say, even today in the 21st century, I'm seeing it because my kids are 4.5 and 2. They are told, "Nahi, pink can't be your favorite color." And all the girls are told that pink has to be your favorite color. And I find my children echoing this because we're putting little kids into little these boxes, and you can't do that to your children. So let them be, like, break the gender rules. So I think that's one thing that we are doing as a society wrong. Our upbringing of women, of course, has changed and is changing, fortunately, but even our upbringing of men has to change. Let them feel, let them, don't dehumanize them at such a young age. So that's why I said boys don't cry, because we're not letting our boys cry, they're becoming abusers and molesters, and they're so suppressed that they stop being human. And that's what the title kind of captures, that when boys stop being human, that's what they do to women. So
Not only the title, I think even the book cover has been designed really well with this
thank
little
you.
flower, which has its meaning once you read
Yes.
the book.
I think the ending was a clincher.
Ending,
Yeah,
I think all
I
your books,
was
for that matter,
it was very,
whichever I've read.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I still have
Thank
to read
you.
quite a few, but few that I've read.
So I grew up
And
being inspired by O. Henry. So there's always, if you read any of my work, there's always a twist in the end. So I just can't hold back from that.
this particular twist we cannot discuss. They need to
This we
read the
can't
book
twist.
back to back.
Yeah.
It'll take you 3-4 hours. You'll be able to finish it. I must tell
Yes.
everyone here.
Yeah.
And it's a catchy title, a lovely deep cover. So, how important it is for you to, I know this ending is always important, but how important it is, do you think, for an author to have a catchy title, to have such a wonderful cover? But your book is fine. I mean, right from page 1 till the end, it is interesting, engaging, everything. But otherwise, how important it is, do you think? So maybe to be
Yeah.
on a little lighter note
See,
in this
Anita,
conversation.
there are almost a lack of books that come out in India, by the way, in our country every single year. And you will not believe it. It is so difficult to catch the reader's interest because, people are like, do you compete with other authors? I said, no, I never compete with other authors. I feel sorry for the other authors because I know how hard our industry is.
Oh,
Because not only do you have to write a book in isolation, you have to find a good publisher. Then you have to, after all the editing and all that hard work is done, the cover and all that, then you have to start marketing your book, which asks of you to completely unisolate yourself. So you're suddenly like this, vivacious person out there in the world after having withdrawn so much to finish the book. So it asks so much of the writer. You have to be a publicist, you have to be a business person because your sales have to be good. You have to be an editor. You have to wear so many hats. So it's very difficult being a writer in the 21st century. It's more difficult being an Indian writer in the time of Chetan Bhagat, because how do you match up to that? Because you're living under that person's shadow, and there's just no way to compete with that kind of fame or success, because writers in India have traditionally not faced that. So it's not an easy task. I know thousands and thousands of aspiring writers. So I don't know how many of you've read my book, How to Get Published in India, as well. It's been my most popular title to date, and that's just because I wanted to help aspiring writers. But I feel so sorry for them because I have struggled. I have made so many mistakes in my journey. Yeah, what you guys see is, like, the top, literally the tip of the iceberg, because you're seeing the awards, you're seeing the best-selling lists, and you're seeing the number of books coming out, and Penguin and Jaipur Lit Fest, and it looks very, looks very glamorous. But it's taken years of struggle and taking a lot of wrong turns. So I think for any aspiring writer, I would say, please make sure that, first of all, please read this book, not because I've written it, but because it's the only book in the history of India that which will guide you through the entire publishing process. I don't know why nobody else has written a book like this. But again, Shobha Day launched the book at JLF, and she said it's because writers don't want to share their secrets, which I have no issue doing.
I'll definitely like to really feature this book on my channel.
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
talk to you about this again. And,
Yeah.
this is my 85th interaction today in the last 1.5 years. And during pandemic, we started this series. And let me tell you, each and every author the book has its story. And there's so many stories one must tell. And one last question from my side before I move on to the interactive. There are a couple of people who really want to ask you questions directly. And just one last question. I know your book is going to be shortly being made into a movie, right? So who do you foresee Menka Patodi role being featured by?
I
Your
would love
personal favorite.
I would love to see Sania Malhotra because I think she has that vulnerability
Oh,
but also strength. She's, I think, captures both emotions very well. But even someone like Aditi Rao Hatiari, or I don't know, there's so many people. I think if you're a good actor, I think anyone can capture the role. But for the guy, which is going to be a little bit of an issue with casting, right? Because the anti-hero. But somehow I see Vicky Kaushal because I think maybe the ex-husband looked like that. The
really?
funniest thing is Vicky Kaushal gave me one of my awards. I won the Vicky Young Achievers Award in 2019 in Delhi, actually. So they flew me down. And I remember going on stage, and Vicky Kaushal in real life also looks almost exactly like my ex-husband. So if you're hearing this, Vicky, please allow us to cast you. I mean, as an actor, I think it's the role of a lifetime, right? Because it's,
Oh
oh
my
my God,
God.
so
It
complex.
is
Yeah.
very, very complex.
Yes.
Yes, Sanya, definitely.
Yeah.
She'll be a good match. And yes, Vicky Kaushal in your husband's role, ex-husband's role.
Yes.
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 So I move on to the interactive. I have a couple of questions more, but maybe I'll keep on coming in between.
Sure.
We have Mamta Sharma. She's an English educator from DPS Faridabad.
Hi.
Yes, Mamta. She is. Hi, Mamta.
Hi.
Hi, Meghna ma'am. Good evening, Meghna ma'am.
Hi, Mamta. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, ma'am?
Very good. Thank you. Please call me Meghna. I feel very old when you say ma'am.
It's been pure pleasure and privilege to listen to you all this while today on this platform. And I just have a thought to share, although it's one of my questions. Rather, I have two, if Neeta ma'am allows me. You know what? With that purpose in mind, when you set to write, when you actually started writing this book, what was the target age group? Did you decide a target age group? Is it the people those who got married and they should be warned? Or is it the people those who want to get married and they should be beware of? Any
It's
target age group? Did you ever
no,
decide on
I
that?
because this happened to me in my 20s, but I'm processed it in my 30s. But I feel like even young girls should read it. This book is actually a dedication to my two young girls because I said I've had a girl and then I was pregnant with my second one. And I said I owe this book to them because they should not be making the kind of idiotic mistakes I made again, like with reference to choosing the wrong life partner for yourself. You should know your worth and you should, because you're going to get the kind of love that you think you deserve. So if you think that you deserve to be undermined in your relationship, that being abused is fair game, and you don't deserve to be, worshipped for, I'm currently, by the way, married to a man who loves even the worst in me. But I was also married to a man who hated even the best in me, right? So find someone who loves the worst in you, and I want my daughters to take that away. So this book is a dedication to that cuts across age groups, because it's also cuts across gender, because you should not become the kind of man who becomes abusive. So boys should, I mean, young boys, obviously, like teenagers should be reading this book. People in their 20s, professionals who are just entering the world, and at that age where they're falling in love and uh, making their way across the world, and finding their space. So when you're falling into that little slot, that slot in the slot machine, make sure that you occupy a high space there, right? Don't get beaten down by life, and don't get beaten down by somebody who doesn't deserve you. So I think those are the conversations that I want to take forward. And Mamta, it cuts across gender, it cuts across age groups, it also cuts across socioeconomic strata, because whether you're living in a chawl or a slum or Malabar Hill or Lutyens Delhi or whatever, nothing is going to save you from this, because we know from our domestic help to our richest, most successful friend, most people have gone through it. One in every three people we know has suffered it in some form or the other, whether it's even emotional abuse. So it cuts across, I think, almost everything.
Thank you. So, with this tenacity of purpose and mental fortitude, how do you reclaim your life when people come back to you either to comment or to appreciate or to tell their own stories to you? Because you live
Yeah.
this moment or these moments once again.
It's very heartbreaking for me every time someone comes to me with a story. The thing is, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a trained psychotherapist, I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer. so it's very, I don't know how to help people. So I have like a little sheet that I share sometimes with people about with, helpline numbers and all of that. And I hope people are using it. But the one thing I'll say is the only person who can help you in these kind of situations is yourself. Because, when I finally opened up about my abuse, my best friend told me to leave the guy. My parents told me to leave the guy. But I was not listening to anyone because I hadn't learned how to fully fight for myself yet. I kept still hoping that the person would change because I was so much in love with that person. And I was also, by the way, this thing of failure, especially in our society, or this perception of public failure, because divorce is the most public of all failures, right? And we are a society which has so much obsession with saving face. We never admit to our mistakes. We'll never talk about things that are going wrong in our life. And social media has made it worse because this idea of perfection, especially on women, of being the perfect woman and acing all aspects of your life is unrealistic, and it's putting so much pressure on women. So what happens is when we do fail at certain things, especially an institution like marriage, which is sacrosanct in our society, it's so difficult to come out and say, yeah, it didn't work out. So I was also honestly, because I'd been kind of the golden child, and I didn't want that thappa on my, on my life's trajectory that, okay, I went through public failure and such a public, you can get away with rape and murder, but you can't get away with divorce. Like people will find out, right? So I think that was the thing. So this idea of perfection, of letting go of your own idea of seeing yourself as perfect, that was also a very long journey for me. Because at that time, only people, we used to think, this again, please remember this was 15 years ago. It was still a taboo to get divorced. And people who did do that were usually considered like crazy or difficult people. Now, of course, it's become so commonplace that when I moved back to India in 2012, I said, why did I torture myself so much? Because every second person was, breaking relationships or breaking marriages over the smallest of issues. But which I don't know, which is another issue altogether. But I think that idea of perfection also, we need to stop putting that kind of pressure on ourselves. We're all fundamentally flawed as human beings, and that's how it should be. Our journey is not supposed to be perfect. We are supposed to fail, we're supposed to fall, we're supposed to make mistakes. And every single day we fail more than we succeed. And yet we judge others for failing. So I think, and ourselves for failing. So I think that we need to do away with.
I am so proud on meeting
Thank
you.
you.
With
Thank you,
my
Mamta.
25 years of divorce today on public media, I'm just sharing this. I am
Oh,
still very proud to
thank
see
you,
you
Mamta.
coming so successfully. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mamta. I wish you all the best and thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mamta. And now we have Naina Sagar. She's a theatre director, actor, author now, and entrepreneur.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, Naina.
Hi, Meghna. I'm sorry
Hi.
for the disturbance. I'm sitting in a cafe because I had to actually ask you this question and I
Yeah.
couldn't rush home. So I wanted to know one thing from you. See, what you said about women having this self-inflicted idea of
Hmm.
not failing.
Yeah.
So I also think to a large extent it is perpetuated by the patriarchal mindset in society.
Yes.
Your mother says when you marry that देखो हमारी इज्जत रख लेना.
हाँ, वही.
So that is a major thing.
Yeah.
So it's not only your failure, it is a failure of your parents also. That is
Yes.
what I was in a I am in a very bad marriage rather.
I'm
I
sorry.
was quite abused as a youngster, but
Okay.
later on maybe I evolved to take it in my stride and I stay a bit separately. So even though we are under the same roof, we maintain separate quarters.
Right.
But I realized one thing that your idea of not, it's with your permission, someone abuses you.
Yes,
The
exactly.
without permission to that person, then
Yeah,
he wouldn't dare to do it. So
exactly.
that sunk into my psyche. It was, I had lived a part of my life, major
Yes.
part of my life. Now, my question to you, Meghna, is how exactly did you gather that courage? I mean, it is a very difficult task to do
It is.
for someone who is so much in love with the partner at that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
But how exactly did you gather the courage? So, in case in future some other girl comes to me, so I have
Hmm.
some a solid answer to give to her. I would really want to know.
Naina, that's such a good question. Thanks, and thanks for sharing your personal story as well. But for me, I think you won't believe it. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow because I was so scared that the guy would ask, in the middle of the night, might attack me and like kill me. And the thing is, what people don't realize is that, I was not abused to the extent that I was sent to a hospital. It was not. I mean, under that chart, it wasn't something so crazy that I would be hospitalized or I'd had bruises on my face. None of that was happening. So the guy kept telling me that I'm not abusing you because proof kya hai? Matlab, what can you show me that you think is abuse? And I was told that this is normal in a marriage कि इधर उधर थप्पड़ तो लगते रहते हैं मियाँ बीवी में ये सब होता रहता है. So this gaslighting that was done to me, and that time again, guys, remember we didn't know what gaslighting even meant. We are very aware of these things nowadays. Thank God for it. But back then, I would, if somebody you handed your life over to and you left your country, you left your career, you left your family to move to the US to be married to this person, if they turn and you put all your hope and love into it, poured yourself into that person, and they say that no, this is not abuse. ये तो हर शादी में होता रहता है. Nobody talks about it because everybody's obsessed with this idea of perfection. So when people start, and you're in your 20s, you start believing your perpetrator because they've already stripped you away of your confidence and your self-belief and your sense of self. So I think that pulling myself out of it when I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow and thinking it's normal. I had started thinking all these are normal, having my credit cards cut off because I bought something after 4 years of marriage. And this is despite the guy living off me for 2, 3 years because he was unemployed. And having all my money taken from me towards the end, my bank account was emptied in Dubai. All that took place. I think that night when I launched, by the way, One and a Half Wife is my debut novel, and it came out exactly 10 years ago. And the night I launched this book in Dubai, imagine it's like a fact bookstore, very glamorous event, and media is attending it and all of that. That night, the guy had moved me out of the house into a hotel, forced me to, and then I got my periods, and he didn't let me access a sanitary napkin. And all the chemists were closed by the time we reached the hotel room. I think that was that final, like, sort of nail on the coffin. I'm like, Abhi, yaar, 5 saal I've tolerated being dehumanized, but not letting me get a sanitary napkin and making me sleep the whole night with tissues. Matlab, ऐसे वाहियात, I don't even know what word to use for such people. You can't even call them animals because animals are better than this. So such monsters, Rakshas log, like I feel like that was, I think that really, like, I was like, enough. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to get better. And I deserve better than this. So I think that those little, that's why I'm saying, people teach you how to fall in love. And you remember the moment you've fallen in love with somebody. There's always that moment you remember that, a little laugh, a little joke, a little experience that brought you two together. But you don't know the moment that breaks a relationship because there's so many such moments. But I still remember, I think that was the final, like, I was like, Abhi, enough is enough. So, but like I said, every person's journey is different. For some people, a thappad is enough. They're like, Abhi, I'm done. For some people, it's 15 years of being abused every single day. So everybody's journey in abuse is also different. So I think we need to recognize and also again be kind to ourselves because even till today, I call myself a coward for putting up with it. But the fact is, it was my own journey. And the fact is, you're seeing a courageous woman today, but she was not courageous like for herself 15 years ago. So it's all a journey, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
thanks,
much.
Nina. Thank you.
That,
Thanks,
that, that,
Nina.
that was a very comprehensive answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Naina, for joining in. We have Uma Ghosh. She's an author again. In fact, she was the first author in our series. She's a freelance writer, columnist for the last 30 years. She's been with Times of India, Hindustan Times. Welcome, Uma, today.
Hi.
Hi, Roma.
Hi, Meghna.
How are you?
How are we?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Meghna, your book is going to do very well in regard to women empowerment. And now when we talk so strongly about women empowerment, what, Meghna, are your views on women being allowed to wear the burqa? Should they be given their own freedom to decide? Wear it, not wear it? Who are we, or who's the government or who's anybody else to decide whether the woman should wear a burqa or not? What are your views on this?
Roma, I think like any other normal person, I think everybody is entitled to wearing whatever they want to. I think it's a form of expression. If you, I remember, by the way, this very intense discussion we've had at the feminist conference, which I was curating back like maybe 5 years ago. We were sitting
Mm-hmm.
at the NCPA, and almost, I'm not going to name the people, but one of my panelists on stage, a very well-known I'm not going to name him, but a very, very
Mm-hmm.
well-known person, especially in literature, got into
Mm-hmm.
a tussle with a UN lady because he said that by revealing their bodies on screen, women are letting themselves be objectified. And
Mm-hmm.
the audience, which was, I think, 200 feminists, hardcore feminists, booed him off stage. And I was moderating the panel, and I've moderated so many panels, I've been on stage so much, but this was the one time I couldn't control the crowd because they're like, a woman is allowed to express herself and wear whatever she wants, and if she wants you be objectified, why is it bothering you? I mean, it's our choice, our agency, our body. So I think the same thing goes, but of course I will have to add, but if there is a uniform for an educational institution, then obviously that has to be abided by. But again, the choice of wearing whatever you want to wear, when there's no uniform, I think how can anybody curtail that? We've grown up like not in that with that thread of secularism where we didn't even notice these things. At least in Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
things were of absolutely no consequence to us. We always looked at the person beneath the clothes. We didn't look at what they're wearing, because then where does
Absolutely.
it stop, right? Like if somebody doesn't have money to buy branded clothes, do we not talk to them, or do we undermine them? So it's such a again complex subject because clothes define us, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so personal. It's like your name. Somebody asking you not to, go around with your name and to change your name. It's such a personal thing. So I don't think any form of self-expression for the self should be taken away.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's exactly what my views are on this.
Thank you, Roma.
Thank you. Lovely hearing you and speaking to you, really.
Thanks, Roma, and thanks for asking this lovely
And all the
question.
best, very best for your book. I'm sure it will go miles, miles.
Thank you, Roma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Roma,
you.
for taking your time. We have Puja Gupta. She's a happiness coach and a counselor, and she's a women police trainer. Also, does related to women a lot of cases in court. Yes, Puja.
Thank you, Neeta. Meghna, what a beautiful smile you have, my dear.
Thank you, Puja. How sweet
You
of you.
have actually set everybody rolling, I'm telling you. Today, I would
Thank
also
you.
like to share that, yes, I went through a very bad phase, but I need to thank the perpetrators. They have made me what I don't want to be in life. And I have been, I think, and Meeta knows a lot about me. It's
Why is it being
probably
always?
No, they sent to some account. I
not
don't
only
know
that you
why it
allow
did that.
them. It happens, as you were saying,
Yes,
despite of coming from such educated
yes,
families, because I believe being a misogynist is not
yeah.
only a male thing.
It's
Even
not.
women do that. They
Yes,
can be the mothers, the mother-in-laws, the sister-in-laws, the sisters. So
yes,
it is not a gender. i i
not at
might
all.
i might be wrong,
No, no, you're
but
totally correct.
so my question to you is, what is your priority in life now? And is it okay? Is it fine if you say that you're still with that person? Because I've been through a very bad phase. One of the finest persons I fell in love with for a period of time became the worst person in life. I have been burnt. I have been
Yeah.
poisoned. I could not leave my job for a day because of financial constraints, because of having a child who had to be taken care of, coming from such a well-read, highly educated, and affluent family. Yes, as you said, that you don't want to get the tag also, and you want to make things work.
Yes,
The thing is, it's not just the family. You want to make things work.
you want
You
to
say,
make
yes,
them
you can
work.
do it.
Yeah,
Yes, for me, it was possible because I have always a thought that tomorrow is a better day. If today is
yes,
this, tomorrow is this. Always,
yeah.
I had this thought. And yes, I've come out of it. I'm a police trainer now. I
Oh,
have
wow.
taken out
Congrats.
women out of, yes, distress. I work with rape victims, rehabilitation of rape victims. And
Amazing.
somehow I have to thank these people who work this way so that I could be a better person. I
Yes,
could give back to the society.
yes.
Even if I faced a lot, so what? I have become so powerful now. I was powerful, but I would, in love, as you said, in love, you become, you have your butterflies, and not just in your stomach, they're all around you also. But then, like Tom and Jerry, it comes and hits you, and then you have birds flying around your head. But I really need to thank them also because, yes, they taught me who I shouldn't be or
Yes.
who I shouldn't let my
Self
son to be,
become. Yes.
my son also to
Your
be.
son also. Yes.
Because who are we to say कि बेटियों को बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए, लड़कियों को बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए? I think
Yeah.
we should say, beta, now you need to stop. If
Yeah.
you're not
तुम
out
बाहर
there,
मत जाओ.
the women are
Yeah.
safer. And I do that.
Exactly.
Neeta is
Yeah.
aware that being a police trainer, I do that in all the schools, colleges, every um, jhuggi jhopri also, every university, every organization, every company. So let's bring a change. And I think all of us from different walks of life can do that,
Yes.
giving a tinny winny
Absolutely.
bit, right? But yes, there is a deep contentment that, yes, somewhere down the line, we did it. We did it.
Yeah.
And let's give it back to each other.
Yes.
And can women be the biggest supporters? These two questions. What is your priority in life now? And how can we from different walks of life put in together to make it actually a better and beautiful place? Because it's not only the women who are being targeted, it is the men also. Down the line, you
Absolutely.
understand that, yes.
Absolutely.
So, and yes, mothers have a big role. I
Yes.
think mothers have a very big role in bringing up their sons also.
Yes. Absolutely.
Instead of just वो आपने क्या करना है, आपने क्या नहीं करना, ये भी एक conversation में बताना. It need not be enforced or imposed on them. It needs to come as a thought process. And if
Absolutely.
a mother has a very good conversation, a good relationship with the children, especially the sons, it will make a remarkable difference. Great
Absolutely.
meeting you. I want your autographed book. I am going to love it. It will be one of my most prized possessions, I'm telling you.
How sweet. Thank you, Pooja.
Arrange that.
That is so nice of you to say.
Your
So
answers
sweet.
to what she wanted to know, Meghna.
So, Pooja, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I know it takes a lot of courage to speak up about it. First, acknowledge it to yourself, admit it to yourself, and then to have healed enough to be able to speak about it to others. I know because it took me very long, so many years, despite my strength and exposure and all of that. So I can just imagine how difficult it is. But good on you, and I'm so proud of everything you're doing. And the sisterhood needs to be taken forward, not just as a placard or social media points or a clickbait, but also in real life. And that's I'm telling you, the staunchest feminists I've seen on Twitter are bringing women down in real life, and it really breaks my heart. So I think women pulling other women down is a sign of patriarchy, obviously, because that's what we've been told, ki, to view other women as competition, to view them as a threat. But if we are now evolved enough to change that. And I think now what I at least see are women lifting each other up all the time, every day. Even in my career, I have female authors lifting me up, I have my female friends lifting me up, I have my mother, my cousin sisters, and so many strong females constantly talking about my work or helping me through everything. So the one thing I'll say is key opinions are like armpits. Everybody has them. So if somebody has a bad opinion of you, that doesn't reflect on you. It reflects on them. So that's the one thing I've learned through life, that Abhi, I know myself so well because, like you said, our perpetrator has made us who we are today. So, now if somebody comes and tells me that you are the worst human being on this planet, I won't believe them because I'm like, no, actually, I'm a pretty good human being. Because in my 20s, when I was going through abuse, I started thinking that I'm a very bad, like a terrible person, because I'd been stripped away of all my confidence by the in-laws and by the ex-husband. But now, because of three of them, I have become so strong that and become so self-aware that you can't take away my confidence. You can't take my talent, my hard work, my passion away from me anymore. So that's why in the beginning of the book also I thank the guy. Neeta must have read it.
Yes.
I actually thank him. I'm like, thank you, because of you, this book has come about. And because of you, I became a writer because, I started writing when I was working for Bloomberg UTV in New York, when I was living with a guy. And I just moved there after marriage to him. And I didn't want to go back home to the guy because I'm like, it's so depressing to be back home. So after work, I'd go to writing classes in New York. And I became a writer because of abuse. And writing was my only healing for 5 years. So now I left my job, my regular paycheck, everything to become a writer, all thanks to the guy.
Wow.
So my entire journey, my entire, my life has been because of this. And I made sure the next time I get married, I'm married to touch with a wonderful guy, but I took my time this time. I was like, I won't fall blindly in love. I'll fall with everything. Dated the family, dated the guy, but made him jump through hoops to prove his love for me and all of that, which I never did earlier. So I always tell one thing I tell all my girls is that always be with somebody who is trying to woo you every day. Because for me, my first marriage, I was doing the guy every day and I was bending over backwards to please him. And now it's not that way anymore. So I think that's the one thing, as women especially, we have that power and we don't use it enough. So, hats off to being a smart woman.
Thank you so much. All the
Thank you.
best.
Thanks, Pooja, and thanks
Thank
for sharing and the amazing work you're doing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Puja, for amazing work that you keep on doing.
Thank
And
you.
this was my last interactive. I know we can keep on going, but I know you have another session also, and you have two little daughters, which I'm sure who will definitely be looking for your attention right now. And
They always
thank
are.
you, Meghna, for taking out time. We have
Thank you,
had
Neeta.
such amazing comments on the session, and I'll be posting that on the social media. Take
Fab.
snap and Major Neha, Vijaya, Swain, and I think Mamta Sharma and everybody else, Vijay Shankar, they've been posting very, very good reviews on what you've been speaking about. I know it's been a very busy day for you with back-to-back session, but still taking out time and being here with us today really means a lot. Meghna.
My pleasure, Neeta, and thank you so much. By the way, I really enjoyed this session. I wasn't expecting, and I'm so sorry that out of the 3-4 people we spoke to, half of them were victims of abuse, and this is what breaks my heart. But it takes a platform like this. This is what I'm talking about, sisterhood. They felt safe enough to be able to talk about it, and I wish that all of us create those safe spaces for women. Again, not Dhindora ne Pitna, like not in a big way, but just in small ways of just keeping our hearts and our ears and our minds open to be there for each other and to stand in solidarity, together in big and small ways. So I honestly think this talk really showed that. So thank you, Neeta, for having such a wonderful, for being such a wonderful host and also for having such wonderful guests.
Thank you, Meghna, once again. And I would request everyone to please subscribe to the channel so that you can see the recording of this session on the YouTube and also see further notifications on the other authors we have. But
yeah, and
lovely audience today.
Buy and read the female authors. Do read this book and take the conversation forward. I think all women and boys and men, everybody needs to read this book. So thank you so much.
And it is available everywhere. And you should also write your reviews on the Amazon and Goodreads and everywhere else. And see you guys, and see you, Meghna, and maybe a physical event soon.
Definitely. Thank you, Neeta. Thank you, everybody. And had a lovely time. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.